Welcome to the Don't Pick the Scab podcast with the premise of connecting men over 40 with the tools and community to thrive in their divorce recovery either before, during, or after a divorce. Check it out. Welcome to the Don't Pick the Scab podcast, episode 45, the podcast that explores and presents guests that can provide divorcing or divorced men over 40 with tools and advice to help in their divorce recovery. Welcome, Chantal Landreville. To get that right to the show. Through her website, Raise Your Love Signal, her superpower is helping people find or just be available for love, getting her clients the proper love skills and attract the right partner. So tell us a little bit about yourself, Chantal, and I got some questions for you. Let's go with that.
Exciting. Thank you, David. I'm happy to be here. About me, I am a certified love and relationship coach. I am also the author of my book that was released Valentine's Day, Raise Your Love Signal. It's a guide to attracting and keeping the love of your life, because this is one thing I realized. It's already hard to find your person. It's a journey, especially in today's day and age. What do we do about making sure that we're actually able to sustain and keep our partners in a long-term, healthy, thriving relationship? The book is literally everything from A to Z in your journey to love, whether you're single or already in relationship, and what you actually need to make sure you put into place as fundamentals to succeed in relationship. And I realized that these are skills that we've never been taught. Nobody teaches us in school how to be in relationship. Yep. And everything I'll talk about with you today, David, is not just applicable to romantic relationship. It's applicable in relationship with another human, right? It's just, I want people to know that. And through my own personal journey of trying to find love, I was single for almost 18 years. Oh my God, that's a long time for being single. I consumed a lot of self-development, and I tried and did and read and attended every possible conference, every possible experience.
Wow.
And when I did find my partner finally, which now we're engaged, we've been together, we're going on our 6th year. This is where I realized all of this stuff where, wow, thank God I had learned everything I learned to be able to apply it in my relationship, because you can be with the right person and not have the toolkit built to help you manage through all the curveballs that happen in life, including stress, finances, kids. Throw the kids in there.
Yeah.
It's just difficult. This is my purpose now. It's teaching people how to sustain and be in relationship, and ideally before you go into your relationship.
Well, let's talk about one of the big hurdles, self-doubt. That's, I'm not good enough. I don't deserve it. How do people get past that?
Oh, that's such a good question.
Hey, we're starting off the bat, baby. Boom. Drop the hammer.
That's such a good question. And I'm happy you asked, because this was my blockage. This was one of the reasons why I consistently attracted unavailable partners. Was I did not feel worthy and deserving of the kind of relationship and love I was trying to call in. So there was a misalignment, right? If you do not feel worthy of something, how do you expect to actually call it in and having the results for it? So one of the things that I started doing, and I actually talk about this in my book, some of them are the smallest little things where, one, you need to learn to trust yourself and your worth. And I always say some of the best ways is start by preaching and acknowledge the things that you actually do love about yourself. One of the things that I loved about myself was my laugh, was my joy of life, was my fire. And I was like, I need to actually honor that and put that up front with myself. And one of the ways I did that was by doing affirmations, where it's reiterating, because we talk to ourselves all the time. I always say you really have to be careful of the language that comes out of your mouth. One of the really great ways that people can relate to this right away is we tend to complain. We complain all the time.
Oh, yes.
You know, I don't really like my job, or it's so hot and you've been waiting for the summer all the time. So this is like, it just goes to show how we're so conditioned. So you really have to pay attention. That's why affirmations is sometimes people roll their eyes at me and I'm like, it's all about changing your wording.
Oh, yeah.
No, this is, you're missing the point. The affirmation is rewiring your brain for you to really say, you know what? I am worthy of love. I am safe. I am beautiful. I am funny. All of these things. So it's really working on reconditioning your brain to, you have to love yourself first. So worthiness is a lot of work. And one of the things I always say to practice that is doing little baby step things like this, affirmations, to make sure that you slowly rewire your brain and develop that confidence, that trust in yourself, and that worth of, yeah, you know what? This is who I am. And I am worthy of receiving exactly what it is that I'm looking for. And I'm okay with that. But you have to give yourself permission first. If you can't give yourself that permission.
Mm-hmm. So now I got a two-part question because you just trumped my other question. No pun intended. You were saying that you had to call it in. You had to be available for love to call it in. What is actually calling in? And the new buzzword is mindfulness.
Yes.
And what the hell is mindfulness?
That's a good question too. David, you have some good questions. So
Hey,
yes,
I'm ready. I'm ready, baby.
mindfulness, it's so a lot of people associate mindfulness with either spirituality, meditation, which yes, they all are. Mindfulness for me, I like to use the word self-awareness instead, where
Okay.
mindfulness is being mindful of what's happening, who you are, why you are the way you are. And that's why I actually say self-awareness. And I've come to realize as I've been teaching, especially in the last year, the power of self-awareness is the key for you to succeed in a relationship and level up the game in your relationship, the quality. This is why. The more you understand who you are, why you are the way you are, the better you will be able to communicate these things to the people, to your friends, to your coworkers. The more you will be able to have the bigger picture. Oh, I got triggered by what this person said. It's not about what the person said. It's calling in some old stuff for me. Or if you're being reactive, you can actually call yourself out on your own bullshit and say, okay, I'm overreacting right now. I actually don't need to
Yep.
react. And this is why I'm overreacting. I would say that's why one of the things I love to talk about is discover all the different modalities of mindfulness and self-awareness to get to know yourself as better as you can. And I'm going to give a really concrete example. A couple of weeks ago, we were on vacation, me and my fiance, and I had just had a bit of a falling out with one of the friends that we were traveling with. And we're in the car driving, and he asks me, "Are you mad at me?" And I was like, "I'm not mad at you at all. So I'm just dealing with something in my head and I'm processing what just happened." So 15 minutes later, he's uncomfortable with my silence and he asks me again, "Are you angry at me?" And I was like, "Where's this coming from? I just told you I'm not mad at you. Why are you taking this personally?" He said this, "You know that my dad was an alcoholic. And when I was in this kind of environment where there was this silence, it was always uncomfortable for me. I always felt like I was walking on eggshells, and it's like triggering all that old stuff." So, number one, self-awareness. He was able to catch his stories. And for me, what that did was like, oh, okay, thanks for sharing it. I can actually control my mood right now. I know, because I know my man so well and he's communicated these things to me, the level of interaction of the focusing on the solution versus the problem was so easy for me to just, okay, I need to lighten up and maybe change and start having a conversation with him and deal with my stuff a little bit later. Does that make sense?
Yep.
So there's a lot of power in that. So when I say mindfulness is just being mindful in general of who you are, why you are the way you are, being able to pay attention to what's going around, not only with you, but with the other person. It's really just being sensitive, compassionate, empathetic with yourself and other people, and being able to have that conversation with kindness with yourself or even with other people, because the relationship to yourself is a relationship. And that's where I feel mindfulness comes in, where you're actually being able to be mindful. Why am I getting triggered? Why do I want to attack this person? So I always say it's that inner chatter that you're able to develop to help you navigate communicate, be able to set those boundaries if you have some, because when you
Hmm.
have mindfulness and you know yourself, you're able to say no. This is a no. This is a yes. And also be comfortable with it.
What about
Calling in, yes.
part two?
Thank you. Great listening skills. I appreciate that. So calling in for me is, this is one of the places that I see that clients get stuck. We think we're ready for love. We all want to experience love, but we self-sabotage, because when I talk about calling in, and I'll use myself as an example, I was trying to call in my person, but the problem is I didn't feel worthy of calling in the love that I was fantasizing or that I had determined for me, the kind of relationship that I was looking for. So when you're trying to call in something, and another word could be manifesting, because we're trying to manifest. When you are not aligned with what you think in your mind and what you feel in your heart, you can't call in anything. If you feel a lack of worthiness of, and you don't
Hmm.
feel confident of your talents at work or who you are as a person, how are you going to call in that person? So when I say call in that person, it's more of a state of manifestation. Does that make sense?
Yep. Yep. What do you think about the concept? And I believe in this, that when you're dating, and you're finding out what you don't want
Yeah.
in each date, you're almost making a tally, you're making a score, or you're like trying to improve yourself. Some of my friends and me, we think that dating is like a stepping stone to the right one.
Mhm.
What do you think about that?
I actually love that. I think most people date to have an outcome, especially women. They go in and when it's okay, I'm dating to get a result. It's is this my person? Is this my person? Where I would say, go out, date to get to know who you are, especially after divorce, right? You're especially if you've been in a long-term relationship, you're rediscovering who you are. You're trying to figure out who you are and who you want to become. And you're also trying to figure out, okay, this didn't work for me. What do I want going forward? Because you need to learn from your past relationships that didn't work out, and what did you do? What didn't service the relationship? So I actually think dating is a great way to practice those skills. You just have to be clear with the other person if you're not looking
Yeah,
to.
I'm practicing on you.
Yes. So I would say practicing the skills. And one of the things I suggest to people is make a list. And when I say a list, it's not a checklist. I think a lot of people, when they're looking for love, they don't realize the importance of having a vision of the kind of relationship they want to experience. We always make it about the partner.
Hmm.
I don't know if you met. It's okay. I want a woman like this. I want her to be this. I want him to be like that. I want to. But what about, how do I want to grow and evolve in a relationship? What are the core values that I want to experience? What's the compatibility trait that I want to have? How do I want to communicate with this person? How do I want to feel when I'm dealing with a situation at work and I want to feel supported? So the back end of the channel is really important. So that is like having the long-term vision versus focusing
Yeah.
on the short term. And I think a lot of people get lost there when they're starting to date. They just focus on the person and the chemistry. And this person is pretty, or he's hot, or she's this. It's like,
But you got to have a base, Chantal. You got to have a base, though. You got to have something.
of course you need to. I call that attraction, right?
Okay.
It has nothing to do with, because people are so focused on superficial wants. And when I say wants, because I talk about this in my book, understanding the difference between wants and needs. Wants are typically very superficial. I want him to be 6'2". I want her to be skinny. I want her to be sexy and sexual. I want him to cook. I want her to be funny. I want him to dance. I want her to want. It's very self-absorbed. Where needs, I always say, they're fundamentals. It's like air, water, breath. You can't live without. They're your deal breakers. So in my case, at one point, because here's what happens when you do that list, and it's an exercise that I suggest people do: the list of wants and needs one beside the other. What do you want and need from a partner? What do you want and need from a relationship perspective? And what that does is that when you start dating, the clearer you get on that, you will eliminate what you thought was important and
Hmm.
remember what really matters. So I'll give you a perfect example of my own relationship. When I met Jeff, I always wanted a partner that could dance. It was actually a deal breaker for me if I was going to be with someone who
Wow.
didn't know how to dance, because I'm a dancer. I love to dance, and I was having all these fantasies. We'd go salsa dancing and ballroom dancing and stuff. And when I met Jeff, one of the first questions I was like, "Do you dance?" He said, "I'm known to have two left feet." And I was like, "What do you mean?" I said, "Do you have rhythm?" He said, "What do you mean?" It's like, "Well, can you do at least a little shoulder roll or something?" And he's like,
Give me something.
I was desperate. And he's, "No." And I'm like, "Oh my God, this is not happening to me. What's happening?" But as we continued dating and we got to know each other, one of the things that was a need for me was, one, someone that would accept me for who I was, with my loudness, with my big personality, with my independence, because I was very independent as well. Someone that would support me. So how this transferred as we got to know each other, he knows I love to dance. Now he'll say, "You know what? Go out dancing with your girls." Or if we're at a wedding and I say, "Okay, you need to give me at least 1 or 2 dances," he's, "Let me have 4 shots of tequila and I'm going in, but I'm giving you like 1 or 2 dances, the end." So the need is like his support and his respect that he
Hmm.
gives to me is more important than the actual want or desire for him to dance. And that's not what would have sustained a long-term committed relationship at the end of the day.
Hmm.
So people get really hung up on stupid, superficial things. You need to think deeper on what's the pit, what's the middle that will
Hmm.
hold your relationship together. I'd rather have someone that has great communication skills and that will actually acknowledge and listen to what I'm feeling when I share what's happening, instead of dismissing me.
Yeah. I think one of my biggest deal breakers was smoking, for
Oh.
sure. Yeah, that was a big one. What is chasing love, and how can that be detrimental when you're chasing it and you're not finding it? What's the difference between trying to find it and chasing it?
I'll reiterate it to another question. Do you want a life story or do you want a love story? Esther Perel actually talks a lot about
Oh,
love.
cool.
It's like, what kind of love are you looking for? And it's, do you want companionship or do you want partnership? And I think our idea of love, when you talk about chasing, we're often in love with the idea of being in love. The kind of love that we've been taught is very rom-com, Disneyfied, right? It's not. So that's why one of the questions I ask in my book is like, what is your relationship with love, and what do you want your relationship with love to be? And that's deep. Now a lot of people are like, "Oh shit, I never thought about that." But it's true, because we're so in love with the idea of being in love, and the kind of love that we've been taught is not enough to sustain a long-term committed relationship. And I'll give you a great example where most people, when they're chasing for love, they're looking for the lust, the passion, the butterflies, the connection. Yeah, I want this chemistry and whatever, which they often expect for that to happen within 1 or 2 days, where you actually
Oh, yeah.
don't know,
Quick, give it to me. Give it to me now.
anyone. And
Yeah.
this is what happens. And this is one of the reasons why relationships fail in a short amount of time, is that when we're in a dating game, we're like in seduction mode. We're like, what can I do to make this person happy? We're giving it all. We're going all in. Then you like get the hook, and then people get lazy and stop doing everything else. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. So my poor man, I always say, you're like my cobaye, like you're at my teaching ground all the time. I decided to experience the difference, where it's like, what if I take it slow and I don't reveal all of myself right away? I don't give all of myself right away. And the question I ask myself is like, how can I sustain this in the long run? With what I'm doing right now, can I sustain this in 4, 5, 6, 8 years? And most of the things that we do at the beginning, we can't. If you ask yourself the question,
Yep.
you cannot sustain that. I'm texting, sending flowers every day. I'm making her a meal. I'm like wearing all my sexy underwear all the time.
Batman.
But it's like people can't sustain that. So we've learned to build our fireworks with time. I am more in love today, and I actually experience butterflies today versus the first 2 years of our relationship together. And that's because we nurtured it, and we are holding each other to high standards daily. And I'm not saying that there's some weeks that are like, but if we really hold each other high standards to bring each other back and saying, you know what, we're disconnected. We need to do something and plan something now to reconnect. Hold each other accountable, basically. Chasing, for me, is dangerous, is very dangerous. And again, I'll reiterate the story. It's, do you want a life story or do you want a love story? What kind of love are you looking to experience?
Wow, that's pretty good. Love skills. What are some of the basic love skills that men can or anybody use to attract love?
Oh, that's good. Good. You're so good. I'm so happy men have you. This is amazing. So good. So good.
Thank you.
Some of the basic skills. Have listening skills. Listen. Pay attention to what someone is telling you. Pay attention. And this doesn't just go for men, I think in general. And this is a skill that if you develop so well, it will pay off in every area of your life, with your work, with friends, with your family. Pay attention to what people say and acknowledge them instead of dismissing them. I think this is one of the things that fails in a relationship all the time. We don't talk and we dismiss when people share, they say something. If someone you love is taking the time to communicate something to you, pay attention. Listen. Second, be interested. A lot of men, and this is one of the massive complaints I get when men are dating women, is that men aren't interested. They don't ask questions to women. Ask questions. Be interested. I would say develop your communication skills. Learn how to be able to say what it is that you want. Say what it is that you need. Again, because everything I teach needs to be reciprocated. It's not a one-way street. If you're developing your listening skills, it's nice to be able to receive the same thing back in a relationship, right? The willingness for me is a key word. You're willing to grow. You're willing to listen. You're willing to say you're wrong when you know that you're wrong.
That's a tough one.
Don't get stuck in your ego, because I call relationships threesomes. A relationship is literally a threesome. It's you, your partner, and the relationship. And the relationship has an entity of its own. And you always have to think, how is my attitude? How is my comment? How is my trigger? How is this going to service the relationship? Is it? And most of the time when you're able to ask yourself that question, it doesn't. So that's your ego the need to be right. You're like dismissive. You're just like, oh, leave me alone. You're always on my ass, like, meh. So is that attitude going to service the relationship or not? You always have to think, how is this servicing the relationship? Not me, not my partner, our relationship together. Because this is where I think people get lost. It's like very self-absorbed, where me, especially in today's day and age, and a relationship is not about you, it's about us.
You just gave me the title of the podcast.
Relationship threesome?
Yes. Yes. That's going to be huge SEO. You are laughing, but it's a done deal. And bouncing off of love skills, what is a love signal? And does it go back and forth? Does the pursuer have the skill? Does the pursuee have the skills? What's a love signal?
So raise your love signal for me was Wi-Fi signal. Are you in full check? Are you missing some of the bars? And it's making sure that your bar system is always high. And for me, the bar system of raising your love signal is always growing, learning, and being curious. How can I improve? How can I evolve? How can I grow? And this is a daily practice for me. And I teach this stuff, and I call myself on my own bullshit all the time.
All the time.
All the time. And I guess this is one of the love skills that can pay off and that a lot of people don't have. It's humility. Humility. Be humble. And I don't know everything. I am not actually perfect. I fucked up. And you know what? It's okay to admit that you fucked up.
Yep.
Raise your love signal is always just improving who you are and always questioning, like, how can I get better? How can I improve? Am I open to and willing to be open and improve and grow and evolve. And I see this in relationships. Women tend to be much more curious than men, especially when it comes to personal development. We're not afraid to go ask for help and be on the quest to actually go. It's harder for men to ask. And I invite men, we need to get better at supporting our men to doing that. And oftentimes, as a woman, we're the nurturer, we're the tribal, we keep the community together. We need to help our men, but we need our men to be open to growing, evolving, and learning, because there's a lot more out there ready for you to succeed versus you being stuck in your ways and saying no all the time and being stubborn and no. Where for thriving relationships, I always say, and this is something that we hold each other accountable, is that we'll always do an activity once a year to grow and evolve as a couple together, whether that's going to a seminar, whether that's exploring tantra, level up your sexuality skills together as a couple, because you have to nurture that. It doesn't just happen on its own. If you're not, you have to do something about it. So that's all raising your love signal.
What about, and I read this on your website, creating a safe space in order to love? How does that come about?
Oh, this is one of my favorite topics right now. There is a massive lack of human connection, right? We've never been so connected, but we've never been so disconnected. There's an epidemic of mental illness, loneliness, and these are three things I realize that we can do really quickly to change that, but we're not showing up. So a lot of people love to complain, especially when we're on the dating circuit. Men are like this, women are like that, whatever. What about taking ownership first? You need to take ownership. How am I showing up? Am I giving my best? Am I doing everything that I can to actually develop, have what I'm looking for, which is really human connection? So 3 things: invest the time, create a safe space, and I'll elaborate on that because this is what makes me, and be curious. So right now we're investing the time together to have a conversation. You're creating a safe space and you're being very curious about what I do. And you're making me feel safe to actually vocalize everything I teach about.
Okay.
It's nothing, but it's everything. So creating a safe space is listening, is acknowledging what the person is saying. It's respecting. You might not be okay with it. Today, we're like so afraid to say something because we'll get canceled. Like this whole culture, it's avoiding us to have confrontation and being okay with disagreeing, which this is how we used to be. And we don't have to agree with everything, but we can respect the other person's point of view.
Definitely.
Create a safe space, because when you feel safe, this is where your vulnerability channel can open up. And this is where there's lack of vulnerability. People are afraid of being judged. People are afraid of being dismissed. People are afraid of, oh my God, this person's not going to know what I have to say. So creating a safe space is magical to creating deep, meaningful human connections, because if I feel safe, I will be able to express how I feel. I will be able to communicate to you my needs and not feel dismissed. We'll be able to say, okay, we got this. We can do this together. We got this.
And one of my last question is, one of the things that's dear to my heart with my co-host Rachel, we talk about self-love. A lot of people don't practice that, and that's part of the nuance of life, and that's part of dating too. How can men, women, whoever practice better self-love?
And self-love is it's a buzzword as well, right? We've been using it so much. Stop saying it, start practicing it. It's really important. So self-love, obviously, and this is how I describe it. When you have enough self-love for yourself, you, especially when you're dating, this will happen. You will listen to your intuition when it's telling you this is not the right thing for me. You will pay attention to the red flags instead of shoving them under the floor and saying, I can change it. It'll change with time. You will be able to communicate what it is that you're looking for and, say, you know what, I can't date smokers, and instead of being afraid of actually, because it's a deal breaker. When you love yourself so much, you hold enough respect to say what it is you want, you need, and hold space for yourself to say, no, I don't accept this. I do not want this. Instead of compromising yourself, pretending to be someone you're not, to be liked or loved. We often do that. I did that all my life. This was the first time in my relationship that I had developed enough self-love to say, you know what? This is who I am. I want to be loved and accepted for all of me, the good, the bad, the big, the small, and be okay with that. That is self-love. It's holding yourself enough to high standards that you have enough respect for yourself to be okay with what it is that you're asking for.
Wow. Well, Chantal, this turned out awesome. This has been so much fun. And try to keep it to a half hour, but I got so many other questions.
I know,
we got to do this again.
I can come back anytime, David. Great.
Man, tell people about your book and where to find you on the internet.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you. So Raise Your Love Signal, a guide to attracting and keeping the love of your life, is available on my website, raiseyourlovesignal.com. It's available on Amazon, Barnes & Noble. All the links for you to have access to it is there. It's a great book. It's a short read. It's you'll hear my voice in your head as you're reading through the pages, because I wanted to create a book that was easy to read. Sometimes people get overwhelmed and it's too much information. And no matter where you are in your journey to love, you'll catch something. And there's a lot of great reminders. It's literally the best of everything I learned over the last 20 years that I applied and saw the results and still see the results of. So my website, and then I am the most active on Instagram. It's my name at Chantal.Landreville. You can find me on TikTok and Facebook, but Instagram is my current main platform right now. And stay tuned, because I'm actually just about to release a course on the art of modern dating, which is right now in today's day and age, we're struggling with the online dating apps. People are burnt out around that and whatever. So I've put a course together that will help you elevate your dating game and not waste your time and really attract higher quality matches. So stay tuned.
Well, once again, Chantal, that was fun. That was way different. I love a podcast when it turns out way different than you think. And this went down a rabbit hole that was pretty awesome. So hold on the line and we'll say goodnight to our viewers and go from there. Thank you very much for hanging with me. Hold on for a second.